This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Aerial XL, built to make sure your rig is seen when it matters most. On scene, visibility saves time and prevents confusion. Aerial XL's illuminated number boards cut through the dark, the smoke, and the chaos, so command and incoming units know exactly where you are. From a truck stage down the block to an engine at the hydrant, your company's identity is clear and unmistakable. Installation is simple, the build is rugged, and every board is engineered for maximum visibility and durability. Aerial XL helps your department stand out, be seen, and stay safe. Check them out at aerialxl.com. That's AIRELXL.com, or call 855-700-0125. Aerial XL, because being seen makes all the difference. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today, Battalion Chief Richard Ray, out of the city of Durham, North Carolina, founded his roots in the volunteer fire service over 30 years ago, Chief, with the Creedmoor Volunteer Fire Department. Chief, I was reading fire engineering this past month. I've been holding myself to a higher standard the last few months of when this magazine actually arrives at my doorstep to thumb through it and find some articles that I think are important and give them a read. And I just had Larry DiCamillo on a few weeks ago on The Scrap when I hosted there, and we talked about his truck officer article that he wrote. This month, or this week, I wanted to ask you about your Volunteer Corner article that you wrote. I know you are truly steeped in tradition with the volunteer fire service. I know you're passionate about it. Obviously, your career is being a battalion chief for the city of Durham, but I love these conversations where people find the volunteer fire service earlier in life and they make it their profession. And I think that's the bite of what the fire service does to people that are looking for something. They get into the fire service and it bites them where all they want to do is make it their career and who they are. And I believe that that's the case for you. So I'd love to welcome you to the show. And give me a little background. Where did your roots start, Chief?
Sure. Thank you for having me, number one. But so my roots started in Creedmoor. So my grandfather, he joined the Creedmoor Fire Department all the way back in 1941, and he served in 41 till 79. So I was just a young kid, remembering my grandfather being the fire chief, and just watching him. I was quite a bit younger by the time he got out, and he was forced out. At the time, the state of North Carolina did they do a pension fund when you get 20 years in, and if at that time you couldn't be an active member and receive your pension, so he retired.
Got it. If
you will.
Yep.
And so then it was watching my dad, because my dad joined in 60, I believe this year is 60 years for my dad on the fire department in Creedmoor. He was chief for 21. So I grew up.
Chief for 21 years?
Yes, sir, for 21 years, from 1995 to 2016. And
wow.
He, that's a long time to be a chief.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of instances where I wish Daddy would have given it up, because he was retired from his job and that kind of stuff, and it's what he was doing. But I'll also tell you, it was a passion for him as well, right?
Sure.
That's one of the things that I guess was an early thing that I picked up on with my grandfather and my dad, was just simply the fact that they were public servants in all aspects, and the volunteer fire department was just an extension of them giving back to their community. And as a kid growing up, I didn't really understand the impact of their service, because I was a young kid. I was a punk, I was like everybody else, and so from there it was. I remember as a kid being places where, I remember one day my dad and we were fishing somewhere, and this was before we had extrication tools in our fire department, and there was a bad wreck in the area, and they specifically sought out my dad to come help extricate this person out of a victim. And I remember that day I'm thinking, that's pretty cool, to have that kind of knowledge. Now keep in mind, he was an auto mechanic too. So he had a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the vehicles. But, the fact that that was before cell phones. I mean, we had to be found, and then you think about the whole response piece and that kind of stuff. And it's just like, wow, this is cool. And then a few days later, I remember telling him, Dad, I think when I grow up, everybody wants to be, most boys want to be like their dads, I think, from time to time. And I watched him and I said, I guess I'll be in the National Guard, I'll be an auto mechanic, and I'll be a member of the volunteer fire department. And I can remember this just like it happened 5 minutes ago, was my dad said, look, I don't, if you want to do those things, that's fine. But what I want you to do is enjoy whatever you do in life, just enjoy it. And I said, okay. He said, because it'll make life a whole lot easier. Well, again, I was 12, 13 years old. That's what my dad told me, right? So I didn't play much to it until I found my passion. And so when I turned 18, I'd been around the fire department my entire life. So it was just a natural thing to join. I was a third generation.
Those moments, let me jump in real quick. Those moments leading up to joining yourself, right? Like I recognize so much of this story, right? And I think so many people do. This is literally how it plays out for so many guys and girls in this country, is like they watch their father or grandfather come up through the system, or an uncle, somebody close to them, or they don't know anybody in a fire department, but they're watching, and there's just something about that red truck. There's something about, I know for me growing up as a kid, when that siren went off and the plectron went off in the house, my father ran out to the car, and at the time jumped in his car and drove to the volunteer firehouse, right? Like, and it was like the town came to a halt while all that was happening, right? And the fire truck was racing out of the firehouse while the siren's winding down, and people are standing on, the main street in town watching. They stop what they're doing to watch the fire truck pass by. Today, not a single person picks their head up, and in fact, cars don't even get out of the way, right? And so
that's exactly right.
But I romanticize about that time, because that time for me was the moment that I absolutely fell in love with what the fire service looked like from the outside. Yeah. And watching the camaraderie of the friends that my father has made, and what the going to some fires and seeing how they operated and worked. And I mean, these guys were 12 feet tall, and I talk about it all the time, but those moments for me, I hope we're doing that today for our kids, but I know we're not. It doesn't hit the same way that it hit for me. Was it the same for you? Like when you were little, sitting on the front seat, coming home from fishing, and your dad runs to the fire. You know what I'm saying? Like, was it the same?
So yeah, for me, those guys, truthfully, they seem larger than life. And,
yes.
And to that end, we had a siren that would go off every time that there was a fire call. And a lot of times through the middle of the night, it would be, I'd run to make sure my dad was up. That you going, and I couldn't go with him because I was a kid, but I remember hanging out until he would get back, and I would quiz him about it, or either the next morning I would quiz him about the call, and it just those guys seem larger than life. And then when I joined, the membership that time at the Creedmoor Fire Department that just poured into me has a lot to do with the firefighter that I am today, because they took time with me. They showed me things. They wanted me to do it the right way, but they wanted me to do it safely. And it truly was a brotherhood, and it was a fraternity of, you hear it said the firehouse is nothing more than a fraternity house. Well, at that time, it was. We were up there. We were, it was. And I thought, and truthfully, I thought that's what I was supposed to do, right? I mean, the pager goes off, you go. No questions asked. Somebody needs you. It doesn't matter what the call is, you go. Now, keep in mind that was in a time where we were running maybe 100 calls a year.
Sure.
And a lot of those were working incidents. And
yes, it was right.
Because I lived, you lived in the community where they didn't dial 911 unless they really needed you. So when you got there, it was an incident. I mean,
it was something.
You had something. Fast forward to my career side, I learned very quickly that it's a little bit different. That it wasn't the same way. But You talk about legacy and family. So my wife and I, we have 2 children. My daughter's a nurse, and my son, when he turned 14, he said to me, he said, "Dad," he said, "I think I want to be a junior firefighter," because we had a junior firefighter program in Creedmoor. And I said, "Okay," because I tried not to push the fire service on my son, because it's just, there's so many people out there just say, "Oh, he's just going to be a firefighter because his dad is," and I didn't want to. I wanted both of my children to find things that they love to do and passionate about, and I wanted them to do it on their own, and not necessarily, we would encourage them, but try not to push them in one direction or another. Let them find what their purpose on this earth is about. And so when he comes to me, I'm like, yeah, as long as you're not doing it for me or your granddad, I'm all about it. And so I was talking with my wife about it, and I said, Evan wants to be a junior firefighter. I think it's great. I said, I think I might be the advisor for it, because Jeremy, quite frankly, I was never good at sports. I was never his coach in Little League or when he played soccer, but I felt like I could do this. And so he joined the junior firefighter program. He became the 4th generation Ray to join the Creedmoor Fire Department. And, this year marks 84 years of service for my family there. And it's just, man, what a road it's been. And it's where I got my start, and it's where I learned that I was passionate about the fire service. And
I'll tell you this, Chief, like, I came to find out that, like, the fire service absolutely delivered for me. Everything that I wanted out of it, that I watched my father and the friends he made. When I turned 18, we didn't have a junior program at the time at a volunteer house. And so when I turned 18, I was all in, like literally all in, and it delivered for me. Period. Fell in love with it.
And I think the same thing, not to cut you off, but I think the same thing happened for my son too, was that at that time they could go and watch if it was in certain hours of the day, right? And,
sure.
And their grades were up or whatever. They could go and watch it. And it didn't take, I'm sure just like for you, like it was for me, it didn't take but 1 or 2 calls, and he was hooked. And the thing that I love about it now is that I think he's found what his passion and his purpose is going to be, because that he's pursuing it in college, and it's just there's a lot of conversation now about the fire service, and here's the beautiful part for me that I get to see as a dad, is that, just like you said, I had no idea what the fire service was going to give me. If you'd have told me when I turned 18 that I would be having a conversation with Jeremy on National Fire Radio in a few years, I'd have laughed you out the building, because I never knew that the fire service could give you so much. I thought that you gave it everything, but when you do give it your all and you do give it what it's due, what you get paid back is just, it's hard to put into words, because you're doing something that's so much greater than yourself. And to see that passion come out in your kids and what they're doing, and to know that he kind of got his start the same way I did, it's just a proud dad moment. It's what it is.
And this is why I'm smirking the whole time you're talking, because what I don't get is today so many guys don't want their kids coming into the firehouse. They could do better. I want them this. They could do better than what I've done. But I think about what the volunteer fire service has done for me. The fire service in general, the relationships I've made, the morals, ethics, and values that I've gotten from it, understanding the importance of being there, the selfless act of giving, all that stuff. Those are core values that we would want for any of our children. And so I struggle with this disconnect today where I don't see a lot of guys' kids coming up through the firehouse. And I'm like, when I was growing up, a lot of the members' kids would join when they were old enough. Now, some of them didn't stick around, but they tried it. Yeah. Others came in, and all of a sudden, it was like, boom, they fell in love with it. It gave them what they were looking for. Some of the best guys I know in the fire service didn't have any direction in life until they came to the firehouse and they found it there. And I don't know why we don't want that for our children today. I think the fire service is an incredible institution that can give so much. But I just don't like the idea that we don't want to give it a chance anymore.
I agree, and I think part of that is us going back and being good stewards of the service, right?
I agree with you, 100%.
And talk about, hey, this is a good service.
It's also how we talk about it. When you come home,
right.
your father, your grandfather, my dad, right? All my uncles in the firehouse, they would nothing but talk positively about the fire service. Why wouldn't you want to be a part of that?
Exactly.
I wonder how many guys go home today and MF the job, who talk about the firehouse and how terrible it is, how it hasn't done anything for them. This guy's toxic. Our leadership's terrible. These guys don't know how to put a fire out. All this stuff. Are we talking negatively about the job, and is that why we're not getting buy-in from the next generation? I bet you that has a big part of it. I
agree with that, and I also think too, though. I mean, I think for us, I mean, and I can speak to me on this, Jeremy. We all get frustrated from time to time.
No doubt.
With our organizations and with the service. But here's the thing, you can control what you can control. And you can make the fire service, all the things that you have control over, you can make it positive. You can make it what it is because you got control over it.
Right.
And the big thing here is that, my son's seen me frustrated about the fire service, but also too, he has also seen the positive side, and he has heard me reflect on how good the service has been to me and what it's given to me. But conversely, he's also seen what I've given back to it too. And,
sure.
And I think that plays in as well. And I think if we can remember that, there's some things we just can't control, but we can control our attitude. We can control how we're positive. We can control how we talk about other people. We can talk about all the things that seem to make the fire station somewhat toxic. We're in control of a lot of that. And if we just reflect on, hey, why are we doing this anyway? We're doing it to help and because it really is a good thing and it's a good service. And you know what? There are a lot of people who want to be in your position, who want to do the job that can't do the job. And I think sometimes we forget about that we're not entitled to doing it. It's a privilege to be a part of the fire service. I think it's a privilege to be a volunteer firefighter and give back to your community in which you live. But it's also a privilege to speak positively about it because I think the fire service has been good to every firefighter that's ever stepped foot in it in some fashion.
I agree.
It's helped in some fashion. So
I agree. Yeah. Nothing in life's perfect.
That's right.
Your marriage, your children, your job, your this, your that. Like nothing's perfect. Why are we giving up so fast on the fire service?
And that's a good question. I don't know because I do hear some guys that I'm on the job with. They talk about the same thing, right? That I push my kids to do something different. But you know what? The fire service, I would be remiss. It has just been probably one of the, it's kind of developed me who I am in a lot of senses. My wife would probably she'd be frustrated with me about that, but it's been a good career for me. And here's one of the things that I think is important about it, Jeremy. If my fire service career was to end tomorrow, it's nothing about the calls that I've run, the work that I've done. It's been all about the people that I've had the opportunity to work alongside of, and just the people, the firefighters in the fire service, I believe is what makes it. And I've worked with some really good people, and they have made the fire service for Richard Ray. And so
I love this. I love this because a good friend of mine not too long ago really pointed this out to me, and ever since he said it to me just in casual conversation, it has really stuck with me to the point that I've been talking a lot about it and crafting a narrative around it. But the fires fade. The memories of fires fade, right? The alarms that we turn out for fade. But it's always when we go back into storytelling mode, when we're telling the stories, the fires are good. And the memorable fires will always be memorable fires,
That's right?
Mm-hmm. But the follow-up is the people we were there with.
Exactly.
And I think about going to a fire with 3 great dudes who the 4 of you together kicked ass at that job, or you go to a fire with 3 other guys that you're just not really there with and it just doesn't click. the memory of that fire doesn't hold the same memories. And so it's
Amen.
always about the people. And and the only way that hits the way it should is if you allow yourself to be open and honest with the people you're with.
100%.
You got to let people in. You got to let people in. You got to let your guard down, and you have to let people in. And when you let them in, the memories that are made is priceless.
And I think, we look at the struggles that the volunteer fire service is facing today, right? I mean, like it's no secret. Everybody's talking about the numbers dropping and that kind of stuff. And I think back to, okay, we talk about, the greatest aspect of the job are the people that we're with, but also too, I wonder how much of that is also hurting our recruitment and our retention of people, right? Because you get in places where, the department leadership is not the best. I mean, it's okay, but it's not the best. But if you're not, or there are cliques and organizations, and then you lose potentially good members because I'm gonna be blunt about it. You're just not being a good person. You're not bringing them into the fold. You're
100%.
not learning who they are, why they want to be there. And here's the thing that I think a lot of firefighters forget is that we all had to start somewhere. And we all started at zero. Nobody walked into the job. I don't care who you are. Nobody walked into the job knowing every aspect of the job or great at it. They had to be mentored. They had to be led. They had to be worked with. And I think sometimes, even in career fire departments, we're not doing that with our people, and we wonder why we can't retain them. And it's because we're not working with them. We're not giving them the tools that they need to do the job and the tools to help them understand why this is the best service in the world. And I don't know. That's a challenge that I've seen from time to time. And just remember that, we all struggle. We all make mistakes, and we're all going to say things that we regret. We're all going to do things that we regret. But you know what? It goes back to just being a good person, right? And treating people like goes back to kindergarten. Treat others how you want to be treated, right? And remembering the fact that we all got our start somewhere, and that somebody had to work with us. Somebody had to take time with me. Somebody took time with Jeremy and helped him, just like they helped Richard Ray, to become the firefighter that can get in the gear fast, that can get their SCBA on in a timely fashion, and to bottom line, love the service. So
there's a lot there. There's a lot there.
It is. It really is.
I want to explore that a little bit further, because I think when we prioritize our people and we give our people, like you said, the tools they need to do their job, I think before we even give them the tools, we have to allow them the bandwidth to be allowed to do their job.
I agree.
And let's be blunt and let's be honest here. Like, a lot of organizations are failing because of their own doings. And I'm tired of the excuses. I'm tired of the excuses where it's the volunteer fire service. People don't volunteer. The people work 2 jobs. I have to put food on. I get all that. But when you make your organization a priority for your members, where it's a place of a winning culture, where you promote firemanship and you let your people do their job without micromanagement, you outfit them correctly, you give them the tools and the opportunities, and then you let them do so that they can have self-growth and they can have accountability and they can feel good about themselves. I promise you, yes, all the extenuating circumstances that we face in the volunteer fire service, you can still have a good organization with a solid foundation of members if you give them what they need to succeed.
Absolutely. And you know who the true winner of that is the citizen, the
public.
But, I mean, that, and that's, I just, sometimes I think the mark is missed on that. And the other thing is too, is that, and I've seen this too, you get people that come in and, you know what, their skill set might be a little bit better, that somebody's been there a while, and then there's this jealousy piece that comes up because they're doing the job a little bit better, and it's like, look, bro, here's the deal. We can all do the job great. We complement each other. You're going to have strengths that I don't have. I'm going to have strengths you don't have, and we got to make it work together like spokes in a wheel. So
it takes work.
Yeah, it just takes work. Exactly.
It's easier to sit, bitch, and moan. And listen, I'm guilty of this too. Everything that I talk about, I'm guilty of. I'm sitting here on a podcast talking about it. I should be in my firehouse right now sweeping the floor. I walked in the firehouse this morning to grab something off my rack before I came to the studio, and I picked up a couple things off the floor, just little pieces of garbage or whatever. But there's leaves on the floor. There's some dirt and oil grime on the floor that needs to be cleaned. Did I take a moment this weekend to go over there and do it? No. Yep. Did I go over and stretch a line this weekend or do equipment checks? No. Yeah. Right? So we're all guilty of it, right? And it's what do you do about that? Right? It's finding that balance, but you have to be willing to put the work in. The winning departments, the departments that are succeeding and having a good culture are the ones where people are there to make themselves better, which makes the department better. But the department allows that to happen. Period.
Right. That's exactly. Yeah. And if you don't allow for that growth, you will be a dinosaur.
You're done.
You're done. Yeah.
You're done.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I want to ask you this. I want to get into this.
Okay.
You know, you went down the road. You went down the road of falling in love with the fire service. You got hired in Durham, North Carolina, where you're currently a battalion chief. I know training is super important to you. You said something to me really interesting before is figuring out who you are, right? Your roots come from the volunteer fire service. You're a proud career fire chief as well, right? A battalion chief. But you have just an outright passion for the fire service. And so you talk a lot about training and the importance of training, right? And that's in the career side and the volunteer side. And the career side sometimes can be easier to talk about because it's, hey, it's our career. It's listed here. Boom, boom, boom. We have to do this, and this. We have dedicated people in the firehouse, 3 shifts, 24 hours. Like it's a lot easier from a managerial standpoint to run and maintain a career fire department than it is a volunteer fire department, right? So I caught up on your article, like I mentioned when I started the podcast today, in the August 2025 edition of Fire Engineering, Volunteer Firefighter Training, Bridging the Experience Gap. I love the title because I do a program called Bridging the Gap. And so it brought me to this article, which is how I found you, which is how we got on the podcast today. I enjoyed the article. There's a couple things in here that stood out to me. I want to read you a line, and I want to explore this a little bit further. Volunteer fire departments should work diligently to have training programs that focus on the fire ground first. Training for medical calls, rescue, and hazmat are all important, but should never take priority over training for the fire ground operation. These fire ground skills should be relevant. Practice them to the point where they are habit. I love that, man.
Thank you.
How about this? Put the mission first. Any successful organization always puts the mission ahead of their own needs. And when you do that, you win. Talk to me a little bit about that idea.
What's frustrating for me is that you go to a lot of these training programs in a volunteer fire department, and I'll just, since we're talking about volunteers, it is what it is. But you go there and the training is it's monotone. It's something it's done maybe over a video or a PowerPoint, or we go out to the bay and we look at something, but where's the fire ground training, right? And I carry it back to when you have a skill set. You know, one of the things that I learned early on was that, you know, they said, you know, tying knots. You know, if you're tying your knots and you get good at them and you stop, you lose the skill. Well, okay. Well, then that carried me to that same approach applies to stretching hose lines, to forcing doors, to throwing ladders, to reading buildings. Everything that you need to do in a volunteer fire department to get the fire ground going right. We're not really doing a lot of that training because people don't want to stretch lines because it takes a little bit of effort. It extends the training. I got a window of time I can work in. These are just some of the stuff that I've seen. Or we don't want to pull the ladders off. We want to do something else. Or maybe better yet, there's not that enough participation that night. They didn't show up enough people show up for the training meeting to, in the instructor's mind, to be able to do something fire ground oriented. And then they wonder when you get to the fire ground, and things don't go well, they wonder why it's not going well. And for me, I find it as, well, let's back up. You're pretty committed to your first responder training and your EMT training, and I'm not knocking that at all. I believe that stuff's important. But who's coming with you on a first responder call? Nobody's coming with us to the fire. And so for me, the importance of having those basic fundamentals and doing them correctly and doing them the right way, the only way you can achieve that is through repetition and building habits. You've got to fail on the training ground. You're going to fail on the calls too, and you've got to learn from it, and you've got to continually practice it. And I can tell you that, when I'm not throwing ladders like I should, I'm rusty at it. I don't look good at it. I'm not efficient for that. And you know
They're perishable skills.
100%. And you know what? I take it back to what does the citizen want, right? Think about it like this. I know of a young man right now that's he's on the list to be a lung transplant recipient. What do you think he wants out of his pulmonologist, right? Does he want the one that shows up occasionally and practices a few skills here and there, or does he want the professional, the one that's dedicated to the job, that wants to be the best because they want to serve their patients the best they can and give them the best quality of life they can? Which one do you want coming for you? Do you want the one that's just, I like it because it's cool, or do you want the one that's into it? And when I say into it, their skill set reflects it, right? They don't have to be all passionate about the job like I am, because that's something I had to learn in the volunteer service, was that not everybody's going to be passionate like me. But when it comes to my skill set's got to reflect my professionalism and my ability to do a job, because the citizen is counting on me to do that. And if we're putting things, my opinion only, if we're putting things in front of fire ground training as a priority, I think we're missing the mark as fire departments. Because otherwise, why do you have fire department on the side of your truck? I mean, that's just where I'm at with it.
Chief, it's common sense.
And so, so for me, stretching lines, throwing ladders, forcing doors. When you start doing that stuff, it doesn't matter where you are. It can be career, combination, volunteer. It doesn't matter what organization. You start doing that stuff, and what happens is that people become engaged. And when they become engaged, they start sharing. You get the older guys who the younger guys don't care for, right? That happens in volunteer organizations. He's just he's a dinosaur. He needs to go. But yet, you know what? The nuggets that he's telling you about one time when they stretched a line and they failed because it spaghettied on them, that's training, right?
Yes.
That's sharing a message. And we owe it to our people to be instinctual in our skill set. In other words, where we're not having to think about it. It's habit forming. Look at our nation's military. Look at professional ball players. They have no problem training on their skill set day in, day out. Why do we? I don't know. That's just kind of.
Well, no, it makes sense, right? But the thing is this too. You also have different layers of professionalism.
Sure.
And so that is the real conversation. It's like, yes, there's pro, but there's also, you have pro athletes, but you also have college Division I, Division II, Division III. You have minor leagues, right? And they're all professional in their own way. And I think what we have to do is talk about what the expectation is from the public. We talked about it before, where the mission needs to be the priority for any organization. And that mission truly is firefighting. Everything else is under the umbrella of firefighting. So if we're not good at the fundamentals of extinguishing fire, searching a building, and opening up and preventing further fire spread and damage to people's property, right? Life and property. That's our mission. Then everything else filters out underneath that. If we can't do that job, and we can't do that well, I can guarantee you all the other shit we're supposed to be doing is not going to be done well either, right?
Agree.
So
100%.
we need to focus on those fundamentals, but the level of the delivery of our services matters. And when you put the mission first and the public comes first, and you put firemanship first, you recognize that the public has this has this absolute expectation of professional and proficient services delivered in a timely fashion. When they call 911, they don't give a shit about your chicken dinner. Correct. They don't care about your EMS or your hazmat operational refresher. They want to know that when they dial 911 and their house is on fire, that you will be there within the time frame of 3 to 5 minutes. You'll be there and get a line on the water and save their babies. Right?
Right. Because who are they counting on? Who are they counting on?
That's the mission. And when we're not focused on that, that is where everything begins to unravel. And I struggle with that because of so many departments today, career as well. You talk to so many guys where their day is full of check boxes and errands and this and that, and training is a side piece because we didn't get to it today because we had to run errands all day, or we had to do this, or we had that, and that's wrong. That's
100%, 100%, and it's about where's our priority, right? And I think you said something there that I think is critical, right? You talk about expectations. What are the expectations? Right. And I think it comes back to, it just comes back to this. The citizens don't care if you're having a bad day. They don't care, like you said, about any kind of EMS training you're doing. They don't care about your hazmat. When their house is on fire and their loved one is trapped, they want enough competent firefighters showing up, doing a professional job.
That's right.
And giving their loved one the best opportunity. That's what they expect. They don't care about the name on the helmet, the name on the jacket, or the name on the side of the truck. And it just blows my mind that's not the way it is right now.
We've had a lot of I agree with you. We are falling down on this mission every single day across this country. There's no doubt that we have everything from ego to lack of funding to X, Y, and Z. Okay, we can go down the road of excuses why we're not delivering on this mission, but it goes back to what we were talking about before, and I actually made a note in my pad on this, is how much of this can we actually control? And I bet you it's more than half.
It's a lot. Sure
yes.
It is. You know, I mean, who's in control of your training? We are, right? So why are we not working on that stuff? You know, and it's... okay. Yeah. Anyway.
One of the here. This is quoted right out of your article, which I love. There should be a standard in place that encompasses far beyond the bare minimum. When you create a mission forward department where firemanship is first, minimum standards don't exist. It's just the standard.
Correct.
And that's important. Have you ever wanted to see the inside of a fire apparatus manufacturing facility? Well, now's your chance. On Tuesday, September 23rd, HME Aaron's Fox and the Dingus Fire Company are teaming up for a joint open house in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Join us for an all-access pass to the HME factory where you'll walk the floor and see firsthand how fire apparatus are built. From the raw materials to final assembly, you'll witness the craftsmanship, the attention to detail, and most importantly, the people who pour their pride and skill into every truck that leaves the line. You'll also experience a live demonstration of the SAM water control system and get hands-on time with their latest rigs during their drive and ride event. From there, we'll visit the Grand Rapids Fire Department's brand new station, check out their brand new HME Aaron's Fox Core 62 engine. So do me a favor, mark your calendars. Come join me on September 23rd in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Come see the process, meet the builders, experience the future of fire apparatus with HME Aaron's Fox and the Dingus Fire Company.
100% it is, because let me ask you this. Do you really think that the citizens want the minimum standard? They don't.
Nobody does.
Nobody does, right? I mean, we are high-performing people, high-performing professionals is the way I look at it. And we should be performing that way on the fire ground, and you've got to get the minimum standard. That is your baseline. That is your foundation. Everything is built from that. And if we're not willing to build from that, then maybe the fire service is not for you. And I don't know. I just who believes in minimum standards, right? You want to excel. You've got to. The minimum standards got to be your baseline that you build your career and your foundation and your fire service. Let me back up. Your fire service career is built from it, right? And how well your skill set is there. And like I said, they are perishable skills, but that's why we go back and we train on them and we keep them current and we keep them fresh, and we gotta be above that minimum standard. We just gotta be there. And look, here's the thing. It's not too much to ask of a volunteer firefighter to give more than the minimum standard. It is not too much to ask of them. Because here's the deal. Let me ask you this. What do you think the volunteer firefighter's family wants? How do you think they want them to perform when they go out and serve and leave their family at home? They want them coming back, right? And part of fireground safety is being competent on the fireground and being above the minimum standard in your skill set.
Our own members don't want to be minimum standards. Like, you want to know why people are leaving your department? It's because you've created a minimum standard department. You've allowed your people to dwell in the basement, and you don't give them opportunity to raise up their game. And so they're not interested, right? People enjoy being challenged, believe it or not, right?
They
People
really do,
enjoy
100%.
being pushed. And if it's done correctly, your minimum standards don't exist anymore. Your minimum standard is what I need from you to be able to ride the truck. But once you get on that truck with me, we're going to show you something every day. We're going to teach. We're going to train. And that then brings the standard way up to your standard, not a minimum standard. But no individual wants to be a checkbox individual. Nobody.
No.
Period. And if you do, then this is not the place for you. But I think, go ahead.
No, I was going. You're spot on, right? This is not the place for you, and you know what? That's okay too, right?
That's right.
It's okay too, right? Thank you, but let's move on, right? Anyway, I digress.
No, I mean, you're fine,
Good
Chief.
stuff.
I mean, but this is what this show is about. It's about having real conversation. You and I were talking about this before. When we talk about the fire service in general, the broad strokes, and this is what's expected, but it's like a dirt floor firehouse in a Midwestern state that's truly neighbors helping neighbors versus one of the largest urban departments in the country. You can't have the same conversations.
No, you cannot.
But the public expects the same type of delivery of services.
Correct.
So it's an interesting dichotomy that has to be talked about in a detailed, specific way. Agreed. And I think a lot of people get lost in the process when we do these broad strokes, sweeping changes, or institute some type of policy or suggested guideline that the fire service has to adhere to. There's a lot of departments that are several years behind the curve, and there's no other way of doing it, unfortunately.
That's right. And the challenges too. I mean, you talk about that dichotomy of what it is. I mean, think about it like this too. There are some places that you go in the United States that, a mutual aid company is as much as an hour away.
Could be.
Could be. And you think about, and you think some response times are as much as 20 minutes away from the original 911 call. I mean, that's just, but we've got to identify those areas, and we got to work to help these fire departments out so that they can provide that service they need. And you're right, it's such a dichotomy across the United States. It's just,
it sure is, right? It makes your brain hurt almost,
It does.
Yeah, for sure. I want to ask you, where does your love for training come from? Like, where did that set in? Was that the foundation of Creedmoor, or was it something you found when you went into the career side?
So that's a great question, and I'll tell you that it's kind of both career and volunteer side, if you will. So I had a friend of mine that I went through the academy with. We were on he's on the job with me in Durham, and he comes to me and says, "Hey man, let's get our fire service instructor." And I'm like, okay. I said, let me think about it. And so I got to thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what can I do to help me be a better firefighter on the fire ground? What can I do to help work towards being better at the job than being an instructor? And I got to thinking about it. I'm like, what's the purpose here? And the purpose here, I'm going to be honest with you, I was very selfish. The purpose here was for me to, number one, just get back home to my family. Right. I wanted to be knowledgeable enough in the job that where if I get in a jam, I can get out of that jam as best I can, or better yet, I can operate safely so that I can come home to my family. the whole reason why I got my instructor in the first place. But as I got my instructor and I realized that, you know what, and I knew this going in, I knew that to be an instructor, you've got to know your material, because students are going to challenge you and they're going to push you, and they're going to expose your deficiencies in what you don't know. As much as you share what you do know, they're going to pull out what you don't know too. And so for me, I felt like one of the ways that I could know the job intimately better was to be an instructor in my mind. And again, I was 25 at the time when I sought this out. So I go and I get my instructor, and it's cool. I'm in there with some other fire service guys, and my buddy's in there, and we do great, right? It's we get our instructor and we're done. So then my focus was to be on the basics, right? I just wanted to instruct on basic stuff. And one of the things that I learned early on that I think a lot of fire instructors miss today is I wanted to focus on a certain niche of the firefighter basics, right? I don't want to be an instructor that teaches fire behavior, building construction, extinguishers, hose, nozzles, ladders, forcible entry, because there's no way I'm not going to be effective at it, right? And I owe it to the student at this point to be knowledgeable about the subject. So how it turned out was I got my instructor. Not long after I got my instructor, I was assigned as the training officer in Creedmoor. So I was a very young firefighter then. You know, I was still in my 20s at the time I was assigned to be the training officer. And again, I'm looking at guys that are in their 40s and 50s, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to make it interesting for them, because I had limited experience. And then it turned into, well, I was able to teach a couple times in the city fire academy, in our fire academy, and it just, everything just morphed and grew into that. And from there, I attended my first FDIC, and I got outside of North Carolina and realized that there's this thing called a huge fire service, and people do things differently that you can use. There's stuff you can put in your toolbox, but that opened my eyes to so much more. And man, I became like a sponge. But I really tried to focus on. I was big into fire behavior, a live fire instructor, engine work, and just fireground stuff is where I felt like I wanted to be, and that's what I've spent my life trying to do, is just good fireground operations and basics, and the opportunities that I've had with the houses that I've been able to burn for training and that kind of stuff has proved huge for me on the fire ground, because there's a lot of takeaways that I was able to take from that, and just how much I learned just from instructing others. I can't even put that into words, because I learned more about myself. I learned more about the job. I learned more about the service, and I learned how to best. I felt like I do a good job sometimes of reaching other students, of reaching other firefighters, and to a certain degree, I believe it's a gift that I was given. I cringe at the statement, "Those who can do and those who can't teach." Right? I cringe at that statement, because I view myself as somebody who can do and who can teach, and it all just started because I wanted to know the job better. I wanted to be better at the job, and that's simply how it started. And I don't know how many students I've been able to. I don't even know, and no instructor does, right? I mean, if I can make a difference in one firefighter's life, if I can give them one nugget that helps them to save life and property at one incident in their fire service career, I feel like I've won. And so that's how I got my start. And like I said, I was the training officer for a number of years in Creedmoor, and man, when we started out, it was really good. Unfortunately, as time goes, sometimes I think you can stay too long in a position.
Sure.
And I think I stayed a little bit too long in the training officer position because I lost some effectiveness, and I should have stepped down. I was recognizing it, but I guess my pride got in my way and I didn't want to step down from it when I should have. But, you know,
Let me ask you this real quick, Chief. I
Sure.
just want to jump in real quick. You were on the younger side when you took on the opportunity to be an instructor, to take the classes, and then to bring forth information. But you admittedly said that you didn't know everything and that you had to learn along the way as well. And I think that that's an important part of this, right? Is like, you know, as I think about it, we have, especially in the volunteer fire service, we have a lot of young and excitable people. But sometimes people do it for the wrong reasons. A lot of times they do it for the right reasons. But the problem is, you know, they don't have the fundamental experience. They don't have the, for lack of better term, because I hate this term, but the sets and reps. They don't have the opportunities to do it. And yet they take the classes. They want to train because ambitiously they want to better their department. I think what's important in that is, yes, we want excitable young people to pursue further education so they can bring it back to the department. And if we're a volunteer fire department that requires a training officer and some 25-year-old kid wants to do that, awesome. What I challenge them with is understand and be humble enough to know that you need to lean on others around you so you can strike a balance in what you're doing. And did you struggle with that, or was that inherently built in because you recognized that early on?
So I was a kid, man. I struggled with it.
I was there too, man. My ego entered the room 10 minutes before I got there.
Yeah. So, but one of the things that I will say is that I had some guys that kind of took me under their wing when I turned 18 and joined the fire department. And Luke, Mike, and Joey and those guys, they helped me to understand that how you deliver the information matters, that you don't know it all, and that to lean on people who have some experience and that can add and contribute, but also understand too that, you know, one of the my hardest lessons learned was I wanted everybody to have the same passion that I had about the service. That was the hardest lesson for me to learn, and that's something that my wife, she that's one of the things, bless her soul, that she had to deal with, was because I would get frustrated from time to time because I'm like, why don't they want to do it? Don't they understand the importance of, you know, the job that we do? And it took some growth and it took some maturity to recognize that, you know what, they do care. Their skill set, they do a good job. Are they as good or as efficient at stretching a hose line as me or throwing a ladder as me? Maybe, maybe not. But you know what? They still do a good job. They're out there working. They helped you get to where you are. Don't dismiss them because they bring something to the table. And I can tell you now that I've seen in a lot of volunteer fire departments that these younger guys that come in, they dismiss the older generation. And when they do that, that's when they have problems. And I just was fortunate enough to have some people on my side that pulled me to the side and talked to me and said, hey, this is kind of how you need to be.
Oh man, do I recognize this? I mean, this was one of my biggest struggles when I was younger. I was a young officer, young chief in our fire department. And I came to find out that if you hold people to the same expectations you have for yourself, you're often disappointed.
100%.
And when you become disillusioned in that type of mindset where you're holding people to your standard, chances, everybody does this for their own reasons, and they put in, maybe they put in an honest day or an honest 3 hours at training, but it's at their level. And it might not meet yours. It doesn't mean that they're any less important or less valued. It just means that they do it on their way, at their level. And when you hold people to the expectation you have for yourself, it's very hard to find people that are going to be committed the way you are. And especially if you're all in like I was when I was young. And so you know what I did, Chief? I dismissed people. I dismissed people. And it caused a real rift for me and a real problem. And only as you get older do you start to recognize that pattern. And today, I am so much more patient and I listen so much more than I talk these days. And that to me is one of the biggest growth areas I've had in my life, is understanding that. And for a long time, it was my way or no way. And now I love hearing what other people have to say.
So I'll tell you too, I had an exposure, and I'm not saying this for any other reason than it made an impact in my fire service instruction. I had the opportunity to take Andy Fredericks' last hose and nozzle class at FDIC. Wow. And I'm a young kid from North Carolina who's a young training officer who's trying to learn things, wants to be better, wants to help his fire department. And, you know, at the time, being from south of the Mason-Dixon line, we only had fog nozzles. And you know, we were in the training, we were doing a lot of smoothbore stuff. And so I went up to him when it was time for us to go through his evolutions. And I pulled him to the side and said, hey, I'm struggling with this. I don't have a lot of experience. Can you help me? And Andy, he didn't know who I was. He just knew I was a student at FDIC, but he took time with me. Here I am, a young kid that's got a question, that's at this mega conference where he really doesn't have time to go one-on-one with somebody. But he took time to answer questions, and he took time to show me some stuff that helped me. But if he was here today, I would tell him it helped me in how I'm a better firefighter, because now I know you taught me how I can relate better to people and to students, and to help get your message across so that it's understandable, that they can take it back to their organization and help their fire departments get better. And my challenge to people today is be somebody's Andy, right? Be their Andy. Be somebody that, you know, you understand their background, you understand where they come from. They're not going to live up to your expectations, and that's okay, but also understand that they bring value to your organization, and the information that you're sharing with them, it increases their value, and you don't withhold that stuff. And it just, I think it makes it whole. And for me, that was a defining moment in my fire service instruction for sure. Because I really tried to employ that same mindset. Because I for years, I was a mainstay in the fire academy for both the community college here where I live and my fire department. And I found that, you know, there was those that were struggling. And I'll tell you, there's some people that just don't get it. I don't care what you do 100%. With them. They just don't get it. And that's okay. That's when you have a different conversation with them. But I also felt like, too, that when you took a little bit of time and you explain things on a more one-on-one level, a more personal level, and you can't do it in every class, but when you take time and explain things to people or help them with them challenging something that's challenging them with a skill, you get buy-in from them. You get so much more value. You get a lot out of them then, because what you're going to get is I think you get a little bit of heart, and you're going to get a little bit more effort, and you're going to get a little bit more effort out of their brain where they're thinking about and they're trying to apply it. It's just, I don't know, it just does so much more for the student. And like I said, there's sometimes you can't do that. There's classes where you can't do that, but every chance that you can, you know, Take the older generation now, right? Like, so I'm 51 and I'm kind of viewed as one of the older guys in Creedmoor now, right? And we got some younger guys. And I let the younger guys do a lot of the instruction, but if I can pull one off to the side and help a younger kid with a skill that we're trying to work on, why would I not do that? Who stands to benefit? I don't do it for me. I do it to help the firefighter, and in turn, it makes the citizen will get better service, because now this firefighter knows what's going on. And for that, I don't know, I think just sometimes that one-on-one piece, especially in the volunteer service, people will feel valued. You get to know them better. It's just, I don't know, sometimes that one-on-one instruction can be really good. It made a difference in my career and taught me. I hope that makes sense.
Be somebody's Andy.
Yeah.
You know, and I thank you for sharing that, because, wow, I mean, there's so much I can certainly relate with. And I look at it this way, right? Like, this is fun because it kind of comes back around to the earlier conversation. You know, I was that pompous, ego-driven younger fireman who had all the answers. And today I'm so far from that, right?
Yeah.
And I think about all the missed opportunities that I had in my early years, right? Because I wasn't mature enough yet to understand that. And that's part of the process. But I also think about, while you were talking, how many people I might have turned off along the way.
Guilty.
When you think about that, I just want to finish my thought here, Chief, because when you think about that, nobody has the right to write your story. Correct. And you think about these new kids that come into the firehouse today that can get so turned off and disillusioned by people like that, that they'll fade away so fast because the organization or institution isn't giving them what they need out of it. Correct. And they're gone. And that literally is one of the biggest issues I think we're facing. And so when I think about this, I challenge it. If Andy Fredericks, who is instrumental, I mean, I'm looking right across at my bookshelf, the book of Andy sitting there. His impact on the fire service is so great. And he's willing to, at a national conference, take a moment to have a conversation to better Richard Ray when he was a young kid, which was impactful for your career. Can you imagine being a small town training officer, that your ego's so big that you overshadow a guy like Andy Fredericks because you're so freaking important and your ego is so big that, like, you don't have time to break it down for your own guys in your own department that you go to fires with? You didn't go to fires with Andy Fredericks. You go to fires with the training officer in your department. Right. But your training officer is so ate up on his own shit and his own ego that he won't even give you the time of day or break it down or help you be better. But a guy on a national stage with a name like Andy Fredericks literally made a massive impact on your career. Think about that. Like, that is who we aspire and want to be like. We want to be like that. Be somebody's Andy. I love that, Chief. That's really well said, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and like I said, I share it for one reason and one reason only. It was the role model for how we need to be, I think, as instructors and moving our fire service along. I mean, I was just blessed to be able to be there, but when that took place, the blessing was just it's not about me. Just know that it's not about me. It's about somebody who took time with me. And I think that if training officers in volunteer fire departments and even training officers and company officers, if they just realize that it's not about them, it's about those that they ride the rigs with, and in turn, it's about the citizens that you wave at going down the street. And like I said, I was guilty, man. I was. Well, like you, I had the ego. I was, it was just, I was not what I should have been.
But it's part of our story. And I think this is what the fun part is, right? Is I talk about nobody else is allowed to write your story for you. You write your own. And I talk about it today, whether 10 years in the fire service, 2 months, or 35 years. If you don't like who you are today, fix it.
Correct.
You can.
That's right. Yeah,
my story is, that's what my story is. I did not like who I was. I like who I am today. And I think that makes my contribution better, stronger. It sticks. It resonates. Does. It's because it's real.
It's real. And you speak with value and you speak from the heart, because you can look back and you can see the errors of your way, right? And you can say, man, I wished I'd have done that different. I can tell you right now, as we're having this very conversation, there's calls that are running through my mind right now on that I run with Creedmoor, where I just wished I'd have done things differently. And
all the time.
And again, we talk about that piece of how do we maintain our membership and increase our membership in the volunteer fire department, and a lot of times it's just about how you treat people.
Actually, just look at them in the eyes and say good morning. Say hello. Ask them how they're doing.
Right.
And then when you're riding backwards with them, or you're at a call where there's a teachable moment, take a time to share your knowledge and insight. Don't talk down to them, but bring them up, lift them up.
Correct. Yes.
That's how we make an impact, period.
That's right. 100%. 100%. And so, yeah, it's, so that's my training story, man. And it's, and I'll tell you too, To be able to instruct at FDIC, to be able to go to the places and instruct that I've been able to go to, was never on my bucket list. It was never anything I aspired to do, and it just it happened organically, and I'm humbled by it. Right?
That's the best way. If it's not organic and it's forced, Chief, it doesn't deliver the same.
So it's been man, it's been great so far for me. So and like I said, I've spent time in the training division on my career department too.
Right.
I actually spent two different tours through the training division, and I'm trying to, even though I've got a little bit before I retire, or think I'm going to retire anyway. I'm trying to let the younger kids now. And I think this is an important piece too about training. I'm trying to let the younger kids come in and teach the stuff that I used to teach. And I just shadow them, and I stand back and I just watch, and I let them take the reins, because you know what? I never had anybody to help me out or show me how to teach, right? I took an instructor class through the state, but nobody taught me how to deal with students, how to interact with them, how to deal with academies, and what do I need to be teaching versus the state standard, along with the state standard, and none of that stuff was given to me. I had to learn that on my own, and so I think it's important now, though, for me in my position, to take that 10,000 foot view, if you will, and look back down across at the troops on the ground doing the training, and just give them little nuggets to help them, because I think that's how I can pay it forward too. And
well said.
So anyway.
Yeah. Well, Chief, I appreciate that. I mean, it's. I'm glad that our paths have crossed.
Yes.
And so on. I mean, I really enjoyed the conversation today. It goes quick, and I look forward to doing this again with you, because I think there's so much value in conversations like this. And,
yes,
and
sir.
I really implore those that listen to today's episode to really take to heart, especially the last 15, 20 minutes of this conversation, because I think so many can relate to your journey, my journey.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yes,
I think the best part about it is, and you want to be effective in your department, understand the importance of humility and telling your story. And, there's nothing better than watching young kids come up through the system and emulate those that were there before them. And I often think back to the beginning conversation we had today, when I talked about my father and the impact the volunteer fire service had on me when I was a kid, and wanting to be a part of such a great institution. And I truly hope that my impact in my firehouse today impacts those young kids in the next generation. I hope that the way I looked at those that came before me, that rode the trucks with my dad, the guys, Bruce Setter, Kevin Clays, like these names go on and on. When you think about names like that, these guys were everything in my world, and I wanted to be like them. And I truly hope that I am upliving exactly what they did for me. I hope I'm doing that for the next generation. And I think we all should emulate that.
Agreed. I sit here and as you're saying that, and it's just going through my mind about all the ones that I used to ride the trucks with, and was, oh man, yeah.
I have such a long list of guys that I don't go to fires with anymore, because they've moved on, they've left. So many of them in our department, we have such a great culture that so many of our guys go career. We lose guys every single year that are going to career departments all over the country. It's because their volunteer foundational roots push them, like yourself, to want to make it a career. And that's a feather in our cap as a volunteer organization, to bring in a young kid, impressionable, and he comes in and falls in love with the fire service, that they want to do it for the rest of their life. That's a win for us, man. We're doing something right.
So I want to leave you with one last thought.
Please.
So in 2005, I was assigned to the training division in the city of Durham. I was those positions were captain level positions. I was just a driver, but they tapped me, and I had to go in and act. And so, I mean, like, I'm starting 1 week in the training division before the fire academy is rolling through the door. So I think it was 19 or 20 students that come in that door. And I'll tell you that one of my most proudest achievements in the fire service has been taking a group of people, that group, which was Academy 20 maybe, 19, I don't remember which number it was. I remember the group though, I'll never forget them. But creating a passion in them to love the fire service. And to that end, my boss today was a firefighter in that academy. My boss that I work for today, I was his training officer in his fire academy. And I'm telling you now, to see the passion in that group of students, because I shared a love with them. I'm not saying that I created the passion in them. All I did was I showed them what the fire service did for me. That has been one of the most it's been humbling, but it's one of my most proudest things was to see a passion grow and a love for the job in a group of students.
That's the reward, Chief. That's
100%.
what I've come to realize is in the beginning, it's a journey. And when you get to this point in the fire service and you start to see the success of others around you, and maybe you had a little part in that, that is the reward, man. I'm the luckiest guy in the fire service. People reach out all the time about different things. And I just sit back and think about the impact that I've been able to make or the people I've been able to reach. And I'm so grateful for that. It makes me better. And that is the reward, man.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Chief,
good stuff,
Battalion
man.
Chief Richard Ray, thank you. I truly enjoy you being on the show today. It's been nice.
Thanks for having me.
I look forward to meeting in person and so on. But thank you. Thank you for sharing some of your story with me today, man. It goes a very long way, and some great messages came out of this episode. So thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it. Really have.
Good.
Hopefully we can do it again.
Oh, we will, for sure. Anybody that's ever on, it's an open invite to come back. So we'll get you back on another day, no doubt. And I'm sure in between that, I'll be seeing you somewhere. So
Let's hope so. Yes, sir.
Good. Chief, thank you very much. Stay right here. I'm going to sign off the podcast. I'll come right back to you, okay?
Okay, sure. Yes, sir.
Great. Guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the National Fire Radio Podcast. Battalion Chief Richard Ray out of the Durham, North Carolina Fire Department and the Creedmoor Volunteer Fire Department. What a great conversation. Your fire service journey is exactly that. It's a journey. And you come in and you continually on through and you find your ways. And there's ups and downs and bumps and bruises and a lot of highs and a lot of lows, as we know. But it's your story, and you get to write that story. And I think that's a lot of what we talked about today. And I challenge you, like I say at the end of every single episode, you want to make the fire service better? Good. Go talk about it. Take this conversation, take it back to the firehouse, and talk about it, because when we're talking about the job, we're making the job better. We'll see you at the next one. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.